In the first installment of my bookshelf tour series, we looked at some nonfiction, namely death, true crime, the occult, and pop culture. Today we will look at the mess that is the IKEA bookshelves, which hold our sci-fi, fantasy, mystery, and horror. We have a wide range of books in the genres named. However, when it comes to sci-fi and fantasy, my husband is the expert, which means most of these books are his. I won't be talking too much about the books I have not read, but instead show you some of my favorites and notables, and even some fun covers. This was more challenging to film because of the messiness, but fear not, most of my other shelves are very organized. We will start with fantasy. So here we have a few notables. I'll just talk about the ones that are in front first. So we have Neil Gaiman, the Anansi Boys and American Gods, which were given to me by my friend John. We have Iron Hands, Duskfall, Sagas of Conan. I really do like Conan. Sarah Douglas, Robin Hobb, Diablo. Those are my husband's books. And in behind, we have Neil Gaiman with Stardust, the Anansi Boys, Fragile Things, Smoke and Mirrors, Ocean at the End of the Lane, Neverwhere, and American Gods. We also have Jennifer Fallon with a couple of her books, The Princess Bride, The Magicians, Brown Girl in the Ring, which is a fantastic book, some Robin Hobb, whom I really do enjoy, and of course, I love sword and sorcery or low fantasy, so a lot of Conan the Barbarian. And as we move down, we have George R.R. Martin with The Song of Ice and Fire. These are just some of his more old school editions. And as we look, we see some Patricia A. McKillop. We also see some FBI badges as well, and some Mist. As we go in behind, we have some L. Ron Hubbard, Tanya Huff, Robert Jordan. I have most of his Wheel of Time series. The Fiona Ver Tapestry, which I adore. It's one of my favorite trilogies of all time. Mercedes Lackey, as well as some Scott Lynch and Anne McCaffrey books. As we move down again, we have Mercedes Lackey. I'll be talking more about these books in a minute. Dan Simmons with Hyperion, Brandon Sanderson. My husband really loves Brandon Sanderson, along with R.A. Salvatore, or Salvatore. I'm not too sure here. Melanie Ron with Exiles. And as we move in behind to get a bit of a better look, we have, of course, The Song of Ice and Fire. And we have Juliette Marliere. We have Mist, The Name of the Wind, Sherry Priest, and more R.A. Salvatore. And as we move down once again, notably to your right, we have a bunch of Terry Pratchett. My husband loves Terry Pratchett. I've read only a few. As you can see, his favorite book is Mort. He has 2 copies. The one that's the hardcover version is one that we bought in Paris. There's Brandon Sanderson. And we also have some Kurt Vonnegut as well. We have more Sherry Priest and J.R.R. Tolkien. To get a closer look into what was in behind, we have The Crystal Cave, which is a classic, along with Michael Sullivan books, and more Tolkien, as well as Tad Williams and The Once and Future King. Alright, as promised, here we go. Here's Stephen R. Donaldson with The Mirror of Her Dreams and A Man Rides Through. I love these books. A friend of mine recommended them a long time ago, and they are a wonderful duology. Next, we have some Mercedes Lackey books. This is just a trilogy here with Storm Warning. I love her books. I think that she writes such beautiful and well-constructed work. The second book, Storm Rising, and the third, Storm Breaking. I highly recommend Mercedes Lackey. I don't really read a lot of fantasy, but I really do enjoy her work. Oh, okay, these are the Voyager classics for The Lord of the Rings. They're beautiful, and I scored them for a song. And this is the very first set of The Lord of the Rings that I got. I begged my parents after we watched the first movie to please, please, please buy me all of the books. Next we have the two bind-ups. The one that's on your left is from the original movie adaptation. Next we have Tree and Leaf, Smith of Wootton Major, and the Homecoming of Beornoth. Tree and Leaf, Sir Gawain and the Green Knight, along with Pearl, and Sir Orfeo, Farmer Giles of Ham, and The Adventures of Tom Bombadil, which I absolutely adore. Alright, we're going to move on to sci-fi, but lastly, as you can see, we have the illustrated edition of The Hobbit. This was, I believe, published and illustrated in the 1970s. It's well loved. So to move on to sci-fi, we have Chimera, Everybody Comes to the Night Side, Infidel, Isabel, and The Weird, which is a compendium of different sci-fi short stories. Now we're having a look in behind sci-fi. So as we can see here, we have Welcome to Night Vale, we have Philip K. Dick. I really like Philip K. Dick. I feel that his work is more of the type of sci-fi that I like to read. Robert A. Heinlein, Dead Space. My husband loves Dead Space. Orson Scott Card, Can You Survive the Zombie Apocalypse? Eve, Alien, Ray Bradbury, Charles Beaumont. And now that we're on the left side, we have some Tad Williams, who is of course fantasy. Isaac Asimov, The Wind-Up Girl, and Demon's Inc. Alright, our next shelf has Mulder and Scully, along with some more X-Files books up at the top. Robert A. Heinlein, Infernal Devices and Morlock Knight. China Miéville, who my husband really likes. Frank Herbert, John Scalzi, more Terry Pratchett, and StarCraft. To have a closer look in behind, we have William Gibson, whom I really like, with Zero History, Neuromancer, and Pattern Recognition, Metro 2033, Brave New World, The Affinity Bridge, and Osiris Ritual by George Mann, more China Miéville. We have Altered Carbon, more Terry Pratchett, and Sherry Priest. Rod Serling's The Twilight Zone, Contact by Carl Sagan, The Electric Church, and another StarCraft book. Alright, so now we're at this strange kind of crossroads where there is mystery and sci-fi all on one shelf. So I'll do my best to tell you what is happening here. So we have Arthur Conan Doyle, some more X-Files books, John Wyndham, Jeff Vandermeer with his Area X trilogy, X-Files, Artemis by Andy Weir, It Devours. There is also Karen Slaughter, both in English and in German. We have Ellis Peters, who predominantly wrote medieval whodunits. Ted Chiang with Stories of Your Life and Others. One of the stories was a basis for The Arrival, and Agatha Christie. So in behind, it makes a little bit more sense here. So there's more StarCraft, Neil Stephenson. I have attempted Neil Stephenson, and that's about it. Finch and Venus Underground by Jeff Vandermeer. Venus Underground, I got signed by him a few years ago. He was a very interesting character. He was really excited that Annihilation was being made into a movie, so his ego was way up there. We have The Martian by Andy Weir, Leviathan and Behemoth by Scott Westerfeld, Level 26, Amped, John Wyndham, Day of the Triffids, more medieval whodunits, Jeffrey Deaver with The Bone Collector, Trace Conger with Shadow Broker and Scar Tissue, Robert Galbraith with Cuckoo's Calling, Mo Hader with The Birdman, The Treatment, and The Devil of Nanking, Pulp Fiction, and The Dinner by Herman Koch, which I quite liked. Next we have some notables. Charles Beaumont with Perchance to Dream. He was one of the writers for The Twilight Zone. I feel if you did like The Twilight Zone, you would definitely like his short stories. The main focus for his short stories included existential dread, nightmare hellscapes, and so much more. I mean, really, what else could you ask for? L. Ron Hubbard with An Alien Affair. I thought for some time it would be kind of fun to collect a bunch of L. Ron Hubbard books. I'm not a Scientologist. I haven't read Dianetics, although I am familiar with the concept. I, too, watched that John Travolta movie, yes. Next we have Philip K. Dick. I'm really sorry. You're going to notice that you're going to be blinded with the reflection of my light. I like Philip K. Dick. I feel that in terms of sci-fi, his work mostly aligns with the type of sci-fi I like. So here we have selected stories. A Scanner Darkly, Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep, which of course was the basis for Blade Runner. I adore this book and I adore Blade Runner and of course Blade Runner 2049. The Penultimate Truth, A Clockwork World, The Man in the High Castle. Alright, so next is Zoo by Otsuchi. So this is actually a horror short story collection, but there is one short story in here that is considered science fiction. It's called Song of the Sunny Spot. It is one of my all-time favorite sci-fi stories. I am so enamored by it, and I've made everyone read it. Essentially, it is about a robot who gains sentience, and a string of unfortunate and tragic circumstances ensue. It is heartbreaking. I've read it so many times, and every single time I cry because I'm a baby, and I'm also a glutton for punishment. I like anything that makes me cry. Next, we have our Ray Bradbury collection. We don't have the full collection yet. However, me and my husband both like Ray Bradbury. Every time I think of Ray Bradbury, the song Fuck Me, Ray Bradbury always pops into my head. The Golden Apples of the Sun. I also love this cover. It's perfect. I Sing the Body Electric. Dandelion Wine. Every time I even think of this book, every time I even say Dandelion Wine, I get very emotional. When I read this book for the first time, I cried like a baby, and every single time that I think about it, I cry like a baby. So basically, I like books that make me cry. The Martian Chronicles, The October Country, Quicker Than the Eye, and of course, everyone knows this, Fahrenheit 451. And if you would be so kind to humor me for a few minutes, I want to share some fun covers in the sci-fi genre. So these covers are from a bygone time where illustrations had a lot more, I don't want to say effort because that's not necessarily fair, but they were just more fun, we'll say that. So, without further ado, The Blood Red Game. If you look closely, the arch that is above this young man, I don't know, this person, is just a bunch of ghoulish red faces. The Mote in God's Eye. So the first time I saw this book, I was rolling. I thought it was so funny. So I was shopping at a thrift store, and there it was. It was faced out. I don't know what's going on. I don't know what the human man is doing. Like, it looks like he's sort of on top or riding this alien creature. I cannot read his face. I don't know if it's anguish or ecstasy. Possibly both. The alien himself looks very suspicious. He's got these kind of suspicious, maybe mischievous looking eyes, but he's also really jacked. I don't know, but it's so good. Robert A. Heinlein with Between Planets. We've got this dude in front. He is busting out a power pose with his very practical spacesuit. Behind him is some sort of reptile, dragon, with several eyes. I don't know. I'm a troglodyte when it comes to most sci-fi anything, but damn, they don't make him like this anymore. Red planet, and I'm gonna sound like a little baby child, but I like the colors. The Day After Tomorrow. This is actually really beautiful. I love the shapes. I love the symmetry of the entire cover. It's just very pleasing to the eye. And in my other life, we have a lady who is naked with long red hair and her kitty in a seashell. This is To Sail Beyond the Sunset by Robert A. Heinlein. I love this. I only bought it literally for the cover. I didn't even see it was by Heinlein until after. Like, that's just how good the cover was. Anything with cats and like a redheaded lady, I'm just like, oh, this is me. Next we have Mysteries of People and Places. This just very happily reminds me of the 90s. Like, whenever I think of any of those shows like Ripley's Believe It or Not or anything like that, where they would just have these like weird intros where everything was just kind of coming at you, this is what it reminds me of. I don't know what the fuck is happening in this cover, but it's really pleasing to my eye because it's so random. And the same can be said for this, Mysteries of Space and the Universe. Next, we have Bizarro. I love the genre of Bizarro. I've talked about it on this channel. I will leave links in and around the video, down below, wherever. Bizarro is a literary genre that gets a lot of bad rap, but essentially it is over the top, explores the bizarre, and is a perfect genre for people who are maybe a bit rebellious, maybe people who like something different, or for people who feel like authors don't go far enough. Skullcrack City by Jeremy Robert Johnson. He's quite a well-known Bizarro author, and most of his books are excellent. Some Things Are Better Left Unplugged by Vincent W. Sikowski. This also was quite fun to read. Sea of Patchwork Cats by Carlton Mellick III. He is nutso bananas. He's probably another very well-known author, and I think it's because he writes so many books in a single year. Sea of Patchwork Cats is basically hybrid cat girls. Yeah, if you like hybrid cat girls, if you like cat girls, just read this book. What can go wrong? Fishy Fleshed, also by Carlton Mellick III. I would be happy if I never had to read this book ever again. Duncan's Diary, Birth of a Serial Killer by Christopher C. Payne. The author sent me this book as well as the next book I'll be showing. Unfortunately, I didn't like this book. And Gargoyle Prophecies. This is the first in the series. Again, unfortunately, I wasn't a fan. The Bizarro Starter Kit. This is the orange edition. I highly recommend, if you are interested in getting into Bizarro, to get a hold of one of the starter kits. This is just a good sampling of all types of Bizarro work, anything from the more serious all the way to the batshit crazy. Electric Jesus Corpse, also by Carlton Mellick III. Another one that is just so insane. I unfortunately don't have my favorite one, which is called Apeshit. I keep forgetting to buy it. It is essentially an 80s B horror movie in book form. It is excellent, over the top, gory, perfect. The Driver's Guide to Hitting Pedestrians by Anderson Prenti. He is a fantastic author. He is hilarious. How to Kill Yourself by C.V. Hunt. Much to my dismay, when I bought it, I found out that this was not a how-to guide to kill yourself. Womp womp. Instead, it is a short story. The Haunted Vagina by Carlton Mellick III. Yet again, this was the first Carlton Mellick book that I had read. This is what really got me into the Bizarro genre. It is insane. It's basically about a woman who is very different. She's literally not like other girls. There is something in her vagina. There is a different land, a different dimension. And in this dimension, there is a girl who lives in her vagina dimension. The human woman's boyfriend ends up crawling into her vagina, goes into this other dimension, and falls in love with the girl who lives there. Yeah, I don't know. It's crazy. Dead Bitch Army by Andre Duza, another good one. Stranger on the Loose by D. Harlan Wilson. This one, in comparison to some of the others I talked about, is a bit more on the serious side, but it is very dark. Suicide Girls in the Afterlife by Gina Ranelli. I am so fond of this book. I thought it was really well written, and I do love how they portray Satan. The Troublesome Amputee by John Edward Lawson. This is the first, at least that I'm aware of, Bizarro poetry collection. Yes, it's poetry, but it's in the Bizarro genre. It is delightful to read. It's batshit crazy, as you might expect. The Extinction Journals, also by Jeremy Robert Johnson. Next, we have a genre that is near and dear to my heart, horror. Again, the shelves are incredibly messy, so do bear with me as I muddle through this. Alright, let's have a closer look here. We have Catacombs by John Ferris, Suffer the Children, Old Hag Syndrome, a ton of Nick Cutter books. The reason why there's a double of almost all of them is because he was in town a few years ago, and my husband and I both got separate copies signed. Rosemary's Baby by Ira Levin, Ghost Stories, a ton of Clive Barker with Weave World, Everville, Sacrament, and The Great and Secret Show. We also have Exquisite Corpse, World War Z, Brains. We also have some spillover from Mystery with more Ellis Peters with his medieval whodunits. Shutter Island, Ian Rankin. Further down, we have The Collector. We also have some Thomas Harris books with Red Dragon, Silence of the Lambs, and Hannibal. Video Nasties by Duncan Ralston, My Best Friend's Exorcism, James Herbert with The Rats, Wonderful Wonderful Times that my friend Maddie gifted to me a few years back, some horror compendiums, The Girl Next Door, which I'll talk more about in a minute, and a beloved feature here, Stephen King with Firestarter, Full Dark No Stars, The Shining, Insomnia, Misery, The Talisman, and The Stand. Further down, don't hate me, this is so out of order, but we have a lot of the Dark Tower series, along with Under the Dome, and my favorite short story collection, Different Seasons. We have Let the Right One In, along with a couple other books by Jan Ivy Linkvist. Horror Sleaze Trash, The Secret Diary of Laura Palmer, Swan Song, David Wellington books with Vampire Zero, 23 Hours, 13 Bullets, and 99 Coffins. David Moody with Them or Us, A Boy's Life by Robert R. McCammon, I Am Legend by Richard Matheson, and Bird Box by Josh Mallerman. And now we're on the very last shelf, so we have more David Moody, a ton of Anne Rice. I grew up with Anne Rice, so she also holds a very special place in my heart. We have Bioshock, David Wong, Scott Sigler with Ancestor Infected and Contagious. And now we move over to the classic horror section. So I define this as pre-1950s. So we have some collections here: Classic Tales of Horror, Vampires, Gothic Tales, Ghost Stories. And then we move on. We have King in Yellow, Alfred Hitchcock with some of his magazines and as well as some of the compendiums. H.P. Lovecraft. We have The Rats in the Walls, also by Lovecraft. as well as Selected Tales of Guy de Maupassant, along with Diary of a Madman and Other Tales of Horror, Dracula, Dennis Wheatley. If you guys don't mind humoring me one more time, we're going to be looking at some notable horror titles as well as some of my favorite horror paperbacks. Some of these books have a very close place in my heart, and other ones, well, by golly, their covers are so good, it's iconic. First we have The Girl Next Door by Jack Ketchum. I will leave the link to my video review down below. I filmed this review several years back, so it's even more awkward than all of my newer videos. However, The Girl Next Door is so expertly written, it could only have been written by Jack Ketchum. I feel like he understood the worst of human nature. He understood what we are all capable of and didn't hold back any punches. This book is visceral. This book is frightening. This book will torture you. This book is one of the reasons why I'm so interested in human behavior. People are so incredibly complex. But not only that, with the themes that he explores in this novel, we really get to see the cruelty that humans are all capable of committing. It's a highly recommended read, one of my favorites. Let the Right One In by Jan Ivy Linkvist. This one I also have a very awkward review of. However, it's another fantastic one. It's something I still think about till this day. It is another book that explores all the realms of human behavior. And it explores that even if you're not so human, there's still a part of you that is human. I don't know. I don't really want to get too much into it here because I could go on forever, but if you are interested, you can check out my review. Weaverald by Clive Barker. I'm very fond of Clive Barker. I adore most of his books. I also love Nightbreed and the first two Hellraiser movies. I think he did a pretty good job directing them. Nightbreed is just so kitschy. Hellraiser is so gory and so good. This book was also signed to Bill. I'm not Bill. And as you can see, it was back in 1987. Stephen King with Different Seasons. I adore the short story collection. One of the reasons I adore it so much is because of one of the stories, The Body, which we might know as the movie Stand By Me with Will Wheaton, River Phoenix, Jerry O'Connell, and Corey Feldman. I love this movie so much. I watched it for the first time when I was 13, and goddamn, I cried. Okay, are we even surprised that I cried? Anyways, the story struck a nerve with me. It really hit home. So I begged one of my family members to buy me the book. So we went to the bookstore and we found the last copy in the entire city. And the one that you see here is a thrifted first edition, I believe, hardback. Alfred Hitchcock's Solve Them Yourself Mysteries. This one is so much fun. I love anything like this. Along the same lines with Alfred Hitchcock, we have Daring Detectives, Sinister Spies, and Spellbinders in Suspense. H.P. Lovecraft with Eldritch Tales and the Necronomicon. My husband is more of the H.P. Lovecraft expert. I've read a few of the stories, but by no means could I actually hold a lengthy or meaningful conversation about Lovecraft. Swan Song by Robert McCammon. Yes, please read this. It is a post-apocalyptic book. So this book I read probably about 6, maybe 7 years ago, and it was a journey. It's probably one of the best books that I've ever read. The Secret Diary of Laura Palmer. So I don't know what you guys think of Twin Peaks, but I adored Twin Peaks and as well as Fire Walk with Me. I think that this is a perfect companion to the movie and also to the TV series. This one, in many regards, is actually quite frightening. Yes, another fantastic vampire book, Carry On Comfort by Dan Simmons. He most famously wrote Hyperion. Alright, here are some more notables. We have The Case Against Satan by Ray Russell. So for those of you who really liked the book and the movie, The Exorcist, I would also recommend this one as well. This one was touted as The Exorcist before The Exorcist. Arthur Machen with The White People and Other Stories. So if you enjoy cosmic horror along the lines of H.P. Lovecraft, and you haven't checked out Arthur Machen, do yourself a favor and do so. Thomas Ligotti with Song of a Dead Dreamer and Grimscribe. This is really in your face. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, this was published in the 1980s, and it reads exactly what you would expect a 1980s horror book to read. I don't know if that makes sense, but I highly recommend it. All right, now we're gonna get into my favorite horror paperback covers. So yes, I am a shallow bitch, we all know this. Whenever I see a stunning or iconic horror cover, I have to buy it. Again, with the point that I made in my sci-fi section, these books were illustrated in a bygone time. They are worlds different than what you would see now, and I honestly feel like the illustrations from the late 70s to the 80s to the early 90s really had a better handle on what the book was about and was really able to blend different aesthetics to really market the book. I don't know. So for example, here we have Night Church. Need I say more? Dream House. I love this girl. She's half doll, half axe-wielding skeleton demon. The Dracula Archives. This gives me big Leslie Nielsen vibes. It's hilarious. Rod Serling's Triple W, Witches, Warlocks, and Werewolves. Fucking tell me where the goddamn werewolf is. It's not the dude in front. I don't know what the dude in front's doing. He looks like a sheep. I don't know. You tell me. By Blood Alone. This one is actually a pretty neat cover. The Sisterhood. I love this. In the crystal ball, there's all these like doom faces. It kind of reminds me of the intro to the X-Files. Blackwater 2 and 6. Sorry about them being out of order. I only ever found the 2. I don't know where the rest of the series is, but I am in dire need to get them. Apparently these are just like, you know, hillbillies gone wild. Yeah. The Devil's Channel. Demons by Daylight. I do like that there's just a lizard coming out of this skull. Wow. The Devil's Cat. So the whole reason I bought this is because there's a holographic sticker. So there's Satan and a kitty. Satan and a kitty. Next we have Horoscope 1, 2, and 4. I think from what I had read, they had only published up until 5, which is a huge disservice. They didn't even get to my star sign, so I'm a little bitter about that. But these covers are fantastic. Look at the Aries. Oh hell yeah. The Taurus, even better. And Gemini, accurate. Deadly Friend. When I first saw this, it immediately made me think of the 80s movie with Christy Swanson by the same name. So before I had seen the cover, I was like, oh my gosh, I wonder if it was like a book first or if this is a movie novelization. No. There is no relation between them. Next we have 2 books by J.K. Husmans. I'm really sorry if I said that incorrectly. Please let me know how to actually properly pronounce this name. We have The Damned and Down There. I absolutely love the Down There cover. I love that it's just this satanic goat. Witch Hunt. I love the fierceness in this girl's eyes. She scares the shit out of me. Audrey Rose. This is another wonderful one. I love the flames around her. I love that she's coming out of her tombstone. What an icon. After Louise, the reason I bought this is because she reminds me of that mummified girl, Rosalia Lombardo. You can look her up. I'm not going to put her photo because I'm just not. But she does remind me of her. I don't think that it is her, but she does bear a striking resemblance. The Omen by David Seltzer. Who doesn't love Damien Thorne? Nosferatu. This is a fantastic and very beautiful cover. I love this one. Oh my god. It's The Changing. I do love that the dude just finished transforming, but it kind of looks like he's clutching his pearls, like he's offended, like there's just something that's just like off in the distance that's offending him. It's amazing. Oh my gosh, and of course Clive Barker's Books of Blood, volumes 1 and 3, and then 4 and 6. So I found these a few years back after years and years and years of trying to find them, but not for a gross amount of money. Somebody on Amazon was trying to sell these for $500. Like, what a bunch of dick lamps. Like, obviously, it's way too much. Why would they ever do that? But here we are. I love Clive Barker because he also does his own illustrations. I love his style of art. We have Tales from the Crypt, Demon Knight. I love Tales from the Crypt. It's one of my favorite shows. I love a good anthology. When it comes to the movies, it's really hard for me to rate them. I don't like Ritual, but Demon Knight and Bordello of Blood are definitely some of my favorites. Hi everybody, thank you so much for watching the second installment of my bookshelf tour series. I hope you enjoyed the video. Please let me know down below if you have any notes or comments, or if you have any suggestions on how I can improve. I'm all ears. This was a little bit different than my previous bookshelf tour video, mostly because, as I said at the very beginning, I don't read a ton of sci-fi or fantasy or even mystery. That's more up my husband's alley. So I hope that you still enjoyed the video regardless. The next video will be my fiction shelves along with my YA or young adult books. I know, I have young adult books. It's crazy. However, I hope that you guys will stick around until then. And thank you again so much for watching. I'll see you guys next time. Bye!